There were so many naturopaths who were close to where I lived, but this was the woman who had built a bridge to me through the fact that I felt that I could trust her and that she was the go-to person. So I figured, look, I'm going to write a book on menopause, and that's what I did. And sure enough, a lot of people are now contacting me because they've heard of me. I'm only at this conference because of my book. I was tracked down because of my book. Otherwise, you know, how would I have been here? Who would have known about me? So on the one hand, I can put my hand on my heart and say that there have been massive benefits in terms of my business by writing a book. But what I didn't expect was the massive amount of healing that I got in terms of writing my story down. And it wasn't just about writing it down, but it was also about sitting in any discomfort and just sitting there and realising at the end that as much as I might have wanted to sanitise my story and not talk about my deepest, darkest, most shameful secrets, there was something compelling me to do that. And the something compelling me, I guess it's called integrity and authenticity. And ultimately, I now can see that I was ready to own my whole story, you know, to really fully be who I am and not to just play my life out in front of the curtain. And by the curtain, what I mean is, I want you to imagine that I'm on a stage right now, and that perhaps that screen is the curtain. In our own subconscious mind, we will have a curtain, and there are things that we're quite happy to have playing out in front of the curtain, and then there's a whole lot of stuff behind the curtain that we don't want to own. It might be things like selfishness, you know, qualities that we just don't like. It might be selfishness. It might be laziness, slothfulness, gluttony, you know, we could name the sins, but those kind of things that we don't want to be associated with, we don't want to own, yet we all have these things as part of our nature, and I now know that actually denying our shadow is A, exhausting, and B, unsustainable over time. So for me, the relief at finally coming to terms with the fact that owning, as I say, my deepest, darkest, most shameful secret, which was about being a binge eater. And I had suffered from binge eating disorder for the best part of 40 years. Now, how could I imagine that I could write about my experience of menopause and how I recognised something, for example, that as soon as I stopped eating processed food, for 5 days, my hot flushes stopped. You know, how could I think that that was the whole story and that that was okay to tell that? You know, why was it difficult for me to stop eating processed foods? You know, because sugar is one of the most addictive substances in the world, and that I had trained my body's reward system to respond to sugar, in particular processed foods as well. So, you know, this is the journey that I came through, and I was trying not to have to call it what it was. I was saying all sorts of things in the drafts of my book, that it was, sugar dependency, or that it was comfort eating. It was not. It was binging. And it was binging because that was the skill that I had learned to push my emotions away. And I learned at the age of 45, I learned through my coaching training and through a process that I now help my clients experience, or overcome any difficulties, or at least see what their difficulties are before they can even start to overcome them, is neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. So through NLP, I was able to realise that I was a surviving twin in a case of vanishing twin syndrome. So that experience in the womb taught me to not feel my emotions, because my emotions were way, way, way too painful for a little being like that. So having some compassion for myself, I learned compassion in writing my story down. I learned perspective. And I stepped into that story, and in stepping into that story and making it public, very public. I've been on television, I've been in magazines, I've been on podcasts. I talk about this everywhere because, again, sharing our stories, we connect. None of us are perfect, but none of us are broken. And I believed I was broken. I believed I was worthless. And I believed that the only way I could really, go through my life and face up to myself in the mirror was to keep all of that stuff I didn't like behind the curtain. But in fact, really, the only way I can live my life, and I can't imagine not living the life I lead now, because I feel real, and I feel whole, and I feel like I'm connected to everybody because of the fact that I'm not hiding. Because when I was hiding, I was connecting to nobody, and it was very, very, very lonely. So first piece of healing was through that whole just owning it, and then all of the sting went out of it, all of the power went out of it. So that alone was huge for me. The other part of it, not completely unrelated, but let's call it unrelated at the moment, was that because of the circumstances of my gestation and my birth in particular, because my mother almost died with blood clot going to the lungs. So I had the initial, if you want to call it abandonment from the twin, then abandonment from my mother because she was in the emergency ward. I can hardly hold that against her, but I never bonded with her when she was alive. I never bonded at all. And when I was writing my book, of course, about menopause, and I was writing about my options for handling menopause versus her options for handling menopause decades earlier. And I spoke about the fact that in her day, of course, prescriptions for synthetic hormones were handed out like, bus tickets. And she paid the price in terms of getting breast cancer and ultimately dying from breast cancer. But she was given a drug called tamoxifen, which is still used to this day, and it can buy people usually 5 years. Breast cancer patients in particular can buy you 5 years. It bought Mum 5 years. And that gave her enough time to have a year with my daughter, and it gave my daughter enough time to have a year with her grandmother. And when I wrote that in my book, my heart just opened. It just opened, and I bonded. And not only did I just bond with my mother, but I bonded with my daughter in a very different way, in a much deeper, much more profound way. So this is why I'm all about, writing. So I help people write their books if they want to build their profile and credibility and develop their businesses. That's great. And I also help people just with writing to get the kind of healing that I got. And that's what I'm so happy to have been told, to be able to tell you about today, because you've come into this room for some reason, and I hope I've covered that off for you. Is there anything that anybody wants to ask me to talk about further than this? And we've only got a couple of minutes, so if not, that's all good too. Yes, quick one.
Quick question. I've done a little bit of subconscious writing, and that's physical writing.
Yes.
By pen. Typing, how do you go about this? Is this part of the healing when you type it up? Or
You can type it up. You can type it up. It is certainly a different experience. I love taking people into a meditation, and then as they come out, they're just writing, because that coordination is different. But also just typing it, because it's just about documenting your story. That's a really good place to start, and it doesn't matter how you do it. But yes, the whole handwriting thing is another whole dimension to it.
Since your book was mainly autobiographical,
Yes.
Before you actually came out with it, was there any hesitation on your part? Was there anything holding you back?
Absolutely. There were so many things holding me back. And it was about overcoming those things. They were all up here. Overcoming all of those things about what if nobody reads it? What if they don't like it? What if they think I'm showing off? And, you know, what about if people think I'm wrong? That whole thing of, yes, potentially being wrong and the fear around that, that was huge. Really, really huge. And again, being prepared to own what it is. I'm here, right now, right here, right now, and this is what I have to offer. That's a really big change.
Very high because of due to the some unhygienic causes to create the infections. Only 12% of school provide the soap and detergent for the hand washing. Last week I did the camp, especially in the Nari Niketan. So I see so many girls suffering from the diarrhea, dysentery and anemia because of due to the supply of poor quality of water. Health and healthy education should be the right of every child. I feel hygiene is very important for every country because healthy person creates a healthy country. Second is the biggest issue is the menstruational hygiene. I think everybody is surprised that only 75% girls not the idea about the what is the proper material used during the menstruational days. Giving girls privacy when they start menstruational because due to the irregular attendance can lead to the lower grade and may eventually mean that the girls drop out of the school altogether. Swachh Bharat, Swachh Vidyalaya. I think everybody knows the Narendra Modi logo, Swachh India. This is my try. I changed the myth around the menstruational changes because nobody wants to discuss on this topic. So every time I try in primary school level, I give the awareness program regarding the menstruational hygiene. And I distribute the sanitary pad because I feel it that if you have maintained the hygiene, so sanitary pad is very important because it controls infection, especially in those days. Other issues, it's an unfinished agenda in our countries because so many challenges: maternal mortality, unwanted fertility, infertility, STDs, cancer, and female feticides. Maternal mortality, Indian about 20% of maternal mortality ratio is the 330 per 100,000 live birth. This is the ratio of Indian population. It is very important to improving the diet supplement, especially in the pregnant and lactating mother to control the maternal mortality rate. Then you control the woman power. Healthcare provider is very important to increase the level of drug distribution, good quality of management, good quality of support is very important to reduce the maternal mortality rate. Antenatal services is very important because antenatal care in this time, the main cause is the anemia, other pregnancy related complications, postpartum hemorrhage, antepartum hemorrhage, they are the most common causes for the mortality. Safe delivery is very important because in India it's a very common cause. Institutional delivery is not possible because our infrastructure is very poor, medical facilities is not so good. That's why I feel the maximum staff trained by the hospitals and staffs because the institutional delivery to control the mortality ratio. Preventing unwanted pregnancies while emergency contraceptive management of unsafe abortions, post-abortal complication. You know the uses of oral contraceptive pills especially to control the PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndromes, endometriosis, ovarian cancer. But I advise to all of you, you take the oral contraceptive pills with the doctor consultant. STD is one of the most common cause for the mortality, especially the HIV. Total number of HIV from 8 million in 1990, now the 2010, it means every year it is increased day by day, because man causes this key lack of awareness. 4 million pupils in sex abuse traffic is estimated in the world. Promotion, prevention of method is the use of barrier contraceptive, just like a IUCD and etc. condom. And screening and treatment is very important to control the STD. HIV is prevented by the HPV, and the cervical cancer is the one of the most common cause for the Indian female mortality. It is controlled by the HPV vaccinations. HPV vaccination is given in 9-year girls to 45 years of age. It's only 3 doses, 0, 1 and booster doses, and it's a 97% cure to cervical cancer. That's why I give on the Cancer Day, especially the awareness program for the cervical cancer. Cervical cancer, most common cause in India, mortality ratio. Prevention only is done by the support services, mobilize support, raise awareness, law, and the only thing is the awareness programs. I think China has already covered so many changes, especially in the menopause, so just leave it. I think one stressful leads to the early menopause. It's a very common, especially in the females. Public education program for the adequate nutrition, decision on family size, safer sex, male participation, education and employment, on reproductive health. These are all are the awareness program is done by the me. And don't forget your calcium and vitamin D, especially in old age. Women hold up half the sky needs position of dignity and equality. Ensure empowerment through the education. Your health now make lifestyle changes, lifestyle illness, and screening is very important, especially in the breast and cervical cancer. I am a regular radio speaker, especially in the health programs, health related all issues of females, or it's my India book of record. This is my small achievement in front of all of you. And I am a luckiest mother. My twins baby girl was born on 8th of March on the Women's Day. Thank you very much to all of you giving the picture. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Doctor. We have about 5 minutes of your time if you'd like to take questions.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Any questions for Doctor?
You were talking about the 97% safety or prevention of cervical cancer with those
Cervical
drugs.
cancer.
With those drugs.
With the drugs, but first is controlled by the vaccinations, because vaccination 97% the cervical cancer, but in case of screening is depend on the degree of cervical cancer. In case of first and second stage, is it treated by the medically, and in the stage of third and fourth, is it treated by the surgically with the sub-radioactive treatment.
What I've learned though is that it's only useful for one cervical cancer, isn't it? So a lot of girls think they're covered and they're not getting tested. That's
Sorry,
what's
I cannot
happening.
understand what I
Okay,
said.
they have that vaccination,
Yes.
then they think that's it. They don't need to be looked at anymore.
Yeah, right.
And then they get cervical cancer anyhow.
Okay.
So there has to be a program that actually makes people realise that they need to get their cervical cancer still checked. This is happening in India, but people still get cervical cancer because of
The problem is this in India, nobody takes the cervical vaccine. The first thing is that. Yeah, this is a very commonest cause because cervical vaccine is a very expensive vaccine. I think it's our government responsibility to it's provide free of cost because it's one of the most common cause. But the problem is this: the cervical vaccine cost is around 2,500, and the most and it's a 3 doses. That's why nobody take the cervical vaccine, and it's a very common, especially in the Indian females. Nobody worried about our health status. Everybody given the BCG, polio, or hepatitis, especially it's a regular vaccination card, but nobody think about the cervical vaccine. This is the very biggest problem in India. And the second thing is that regarding the screening, nobody aware. Because after 45, every female, every 6 months follow the colposcopy. It's a very easy OPD procedure. By the colposcopy, you detect the cervical cancer, and especially in the any changes of cervix. But is it not possible in India because nobody care for our health?
So
That's
it's
the
very,
very
very high. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We would now like to welcome our final speaker for this session. Claudia Helming will be speaking on, let me get this right, female empowerment, how to give thousands of women the possibility to be successful with their own handmade businesses. Thank you, Claudia.
You have Anyway, so hello everybody. This was a really interesting speech and very impressive. So, thank you. So my name is Claudia, and so I'm from Germany, Berlin. I'm really happy to be here and have the chance to talk to you about actually my business or what I do in life. Let's see if this works. No. So basically, I'm going to speak about how we or how I try to enable women. We basically do that through a company that I created more than 10 years ago. The company's name is Davanda. It's an online marketplace for basically people who produce and want to sell handmade products on the one hand. On the other hand, for people who are looking for products that are more special than what you can normally find in the typical stores like H&M or Zara. So for people who are really looking for something unique and something that has a value that is beyond actually the economical value. So Davanda offers a lot of handmade products, but it also offers a lot of materials, so supply you need in order to craft, and also the content in order to craft something yourself. So what Davanda has is actually more than 6 million different products right now online that have all been produced handmade by more than 300,000 artists and crafters and designers, and that are bought or looked for by more than 7 million buyers. So we're based in Berlin, in Germany, and the marketplace is mostly or mainly available throughout Europe. So we also have a lot of creatives that come from other continents, for example, also from Asia. And that is how it all started. So that is me in some better days, more than 10 years ago, together with my co-founder Michael. The two of us, we were actually always working in the internet industry and in an employed way. And one day we thought, okay, we need to do something with our lives that is more exciting. and we can be better than our boss at that time. And so we were looking for ideas actually to start our own business. And we were thinking of many different things, and then one lonely or cold day in Russia. At that time we were working in Russia for an internet startup. We were actually painting these little matryoshka dolls because we were looking for some presents to bring home for our parents and friends. That should be something special. Couldn't find anything special in Moscow, and then painted ourselves. As you can see, the result is pretty ugly. So we didn't really give it to our friends, but this was the moment when we decided that the world actually needs a place where people that are creative can really put their products online, and people like us who lack any talent to craft something can get these products. And that's how it started. And first, when we started in Germany, people, when we told them, we're going to start a marketplace for handmade products, we're thinking of products like this, so not so attractive products, pretty ugly, but we were convinced that the world out there had really impressive, unique products that were only possible to find when you knew the artist. And that's how it started more than 10 years ago, and as you can see, we were right. There are really extraordinary products out there and that are now available online. But we wanted to achieve something more, so we didn't want to be only a platform for products, as could any platform be. We also wanted actually to enable some sort of commerce that connects people and that gives an alternative to e-commerce as we normally know it, and maybe also offline commerce. So what we wanted to do is really put in the front people that are producing these handmade products and give buyers and sellers the possibility to really connect. So when we say we are basically about making or crafting in love, and and why are we really into the female empowerment topic is simply because more than 70% of our users, sellers and buyers are women. And it sometimes feels not like 70%, it feels like 100%. So most of them are mothers, most of them are pretty young. That is because, at least in Europe or also in the US and Australia, crafting or do-it-yourself is really a trend topic that mostly young people do. And most of the people who are actually buying handmade products are also into crafting themselves. So most of them either also like to knit, to sew, or to do something with their kids. And what makes actually handmade products unique is the possibility, of course, to really have individual products made of them by examples of the people or women selling on our website. So this is girls on the right. They're both fashion designers who started literally with nothing